Welcome to the Finnish Museum of Games. My name is Mikko Heinonen, and I was in a way the initiator or the father of the project. We are located in Tampere, Finland, Europe.
Nyt rupeaa sullekin tulla pisteen. Mitä?
Of course, as you can see behind me, we have a number of international famous game consoles, and we have games for those systems on display as well. But the exhibition is built around the Finnish gaming history. The museum was partly crowdfunded. We raised 86,000 euros, which is roughly $100,000. We were able to use that money to build an interactive museum.
Games is very good.
We have these period rooms where you have a scene from, say, 1985 or 1995, where you can sit down and try the game in its real environment. So these are decorated as they would have been back in the day. Fairly easy to get here from basically anywhere in the world, and we're open almost every day of the year except for Mondays.
So what's your channel? The Relaxing? Yeah.
Äiti, onks näissä fisipeleistä voittaa oikeetaan? Ei.
My name is Manu Persinen, and I'm one of my founding members of the Finnish Museum of Games. This summer's exhibition is called Strange Handhelds. Right in the beginning, when I didn't have a family yet, so all my paychecks went to pretty much collecting. That was a really good time to start. The exhibition starts with the Game & Watch Fire Attack from 1982. This was my first gaming machine. The box has a sticker that says "Not for small children," which is a weird thing nowadays, because because many games are especially meant for small children. From Atari from 1978, Touch Me, that has a really 70s visual look with the colors, especially the orange plastic somehow. It's like a mechanical version of Pong. It might not be a handheld gaming console per se, it's a handheld game that has some electronics, and it's definitely strange. It's based on Russian animation. This game especially is about the wolf stealing eggs from the chicken. Red, phonish thing from the late 70s. Of course, a huge success, over 100 million sold. Game Boy always stood on top, and it's there still. And of course, Sega tried to challenge Nintendo on the handheld market as well. They came out with the Sega Game Gear, which we see here, and then later the Sega Nomad. There was the TV tuner, Game8, Game Master, Supervision, and Mega Duck. Mega Duck is a weird name for a handheld. That same machine was called Cougar Boy in Brazil, so I don't know who comes up with these names. Snoopy, that resembles like a small arcade game cabinet. You would go to a grocery store and scan all the barcodes that you could find on products. And these codes would give abilities for your little monsters that you used to fight, kind of like on Pokemon Go.
And this is the Nokia N-Gage. You had to switch off the system and take out the battery in order to switch games. But it was marketed as the one thing that it really couldn't do, which was to play games.
In an exhibition of strange handhelds, many might think that the Sony PSP, PlayStation Portable, isn't that strange. But it had some strange technical aspects. The first that really could challenge Nintendo somewhat. So where are all the portable gaming consoles now? Pretty much here. This is pretty much the only one left. Of course, Nintendo 3DS still has some new games coming out, especially in Japan. We'll see what happens in the future. Will cell phones be the end of it all?
This game is called Uno Turha Puro muuttaa maalle. The game is also notorious for its level of difficulty. There was very little external game testing, so the developer would just fine-tune the difficulty on their own. And what happened was they got better and better at the game. They thought it was too easy, so they ramped it up a bit. If you ever come here, or if you have access to a C64 emulator, you should try it out. It's the Magnavox Odyssey from 1972, and this was the first game console sold to consumers that you connect to your TV. No video game history would be complete without the Atari video computer system, or the 2600 as it was later called. This was the first system that sold in the several millions that had interchangeable games. Vectrex, which was published in Europe by MB, originally launched in 1982, and it's a special system because it comes with its own screen. And this is the Sega Mega Drive, or the Genesis as it's called in the US, but it's the Mega Drive in Japan and Europe. And it was basically the only very successful system that Sega made. They made a lot. PlayStation, or the PS1, it was actually planned to be an add-on for the Super Nintendo. So when I got the system, I was a student, I was broke, as always, so we couldn't afford a memory card. So we were looking for games that had some sort of a password system. And then we had Tomb Raider, but we couldn't save, so we just had to have the system running all the time. The Nintendo 64, it was known as the Ultra 64 before they launched it. So we're climbing up the wall of consoles, and then now we reach the PS2. You could use it as a Trojan horse. You could say you're really getting a DVD player, but it's so much cheaper to buy it like this, and you get the game console on the side, and then you can play the games. Sega had a problem in the 1990s after the success of the Genesis and Mega Drive. They really couldn't do anything right. And it's very unfortunate that the one thing they got right, the Dreamcast, it really had no chance to survive against the PS2 and also the GameCube and the Xbox as well. Nevertheless, it remains a great system that I have very fond memories of. Well, nowadays it doesn't really look that big anymore, mainly because there's the Xbox One, which is also big. Massive controller, known as the Duke. And as you can see, our wall of consoles ends with the Wii 60 generation. So we have the Nintendo Wii, and the Xbox 360, and then the PlayStation 3. Probably the most famous game to come from Finland at that time was Max Payne from Remedy. So now we're in one of the period rooms, and this is what we call the hacker room from the mid 1990s. So we have the Amiga 1200 home computer, and we have a Finnish game called Coloris. It's a very sort of visually pleasing game where you stack colored blocks on top of each other. It has nice music and so on. Unreal World is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the game that has been in active development for the longest. So these two guys, Sami Vaaranen and Erkka Lehmus, have been working on the game since 1992 without any major interruptions. And this is the period room from 1985 or around that time. And if we're in Finland in 1985 and we're playing a digital game, it means we're playing on the Commodore 64. It's still one of the most sold individual computer models in the world. I think the iPad has surpassed it, but very few apart from that.
Hi, my name is Nicolas Nuland. I'm a researcher and one of the curators here at the Finnish Museum of Games. The machine I'm standing next to is called the Piazza. It's a slot machine played with money, and you can win money in this game. The point is to get the coin to fly to one of these openings so you can get the winnings. The poker is another classic from the Finnish Slot Machine Association, and it's probably best known for the excellent melody you can hear in the background when we're playing it. And it's also a gambling game, so unfortunately we can't show it on video at this time. That is the Speed Test. It's another Finnish game classic, and it's probably best known from Speden Spelit, a TV program where it was featured for many years. When
Haluaisitko pelata tätä?
Finland was involved in a bloody civil war in 1918. A game called The Battle of the Reds and Fights in Finland 1918 came out the same year as the war was fought in 1918 for the Christmas market. The game is quite an in-depth simulation of what happened in the war.
So, welcome to Tampere.
Noniin.
Joo, no niin.
Hei, hyvä.
So, a lot of my stuff, of course, is in the museum, but I have some of the stuff. I sort of officially started collecting items in 1992. So that makes 26 years of accumulating stuff. Of course, there's a lot of Sega here, and that's not a full PAL set, but it's a lot of the games that were released in the PAL region. Boards, all the full-size cabinets are now in the museum. And here are some versions of Doom, some of which are better than others. But this is for the Mega Drive or Genesis 32X. In order to get your Saturn online, you needed a few things. Here's the keyboard, and then you had this keyboard adapter, and you just plugged it in. This allowed you to use a PS2 keyboard. It didn't have to be like a Sega keyboard, but it's much cooler if it was one. Oh, actually, you put the Dreamcast on top. Yeah, that goes in the bottom, and then you just sing away. So that's a thing, and new in the box. And I acquired this like not long ago. There was a pile of these. So this is still wrapped in plastic. It's never been used. So this is a fairly obscure thing. It's the Sega Terra Drive. So it's not the Mega Drive, it's the Terra Drive. It's like a combo system where you have an IBM PC on one side and the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis on the other. The two sides, they like know of each other. It's possible to program the Sega side from the PC side. Master System stuff, and let's see if I can find an interesting one. This is one of the high points of my career as a collector. I found this game in the Czech Republic in the year 2000, and I found this in a discount bookstore for less than €1. The copyright says 1996, and this is for the Sega Master System, and it was completely dead by that time. So I sent an SMS to Manu asking him to see online, okay, it's an unreleased game, so you might want to pick it up. So I did. This is the original Smurfs thing, and this was the sequel, The Smurfs Travel the World, in French. It's not a very special game, but it's a special game to me because I was the one that found it. A really cool thing to find back in the day. Yeah, so this is some of my stuff. I hope you enjoyed seeing it. I hope that some of this will be in the museum in the future. We have this changing exhibitions, and probably we'll build something around these, like we now have the obscure handheld things. But let's go see if we can find something else.